I'm Dr. Catherine Cotrella, and I have the great honor to be the Associate Dean of the College of Medicine here, and on behalf of the Texas A&M Health Science Center and the Mayor, we welcome you to our beautiful facility. We were particularly honored for a couple reasons that you would come here today. One, as many of you know, as Mayor McGraw knows, as our elected official knows, this building, as beautiful as it is, really epitomizes the spirit that is Round Rock and in Central Texas. This came together because of visionary people like our elected officials and the Avery family, and we've created what you see here. Now, why we think at Texas A&M we're such good partners is, of course, we share your commitment to the community and to raising the standard for the health of all Texans, and including translating research from the bench to the field. So we are very excited to partner with you to raise the entire educational medical environment in our community. Now, that sounds just like words, but we actually have a medical student here to share with you the way your vision translated into real opportunities in Round Rock. Just for you to know, we started training medical students in May of 2008, and in June of 2009, we had our first class of full-time third-year students. I want you to note that when these students chose Texas A&M College of Medicine, there was no Round Rock. So they elected to put their medical education into our hands because they realized that what we were providing here was absolutely unique, and because they love the area just as you do. But enough said, I'm going to turn this over to someone who will give you a face for what's going on right here in Round Rock, and that is student Dr. Jay Farrell. Jay?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I have to say I was a little shocked when I got the email asking me to speak to the mayor's State of the City, and think I'd be the best face for that. I kind of felt like, wow, it would be so special to be chosen for that, but I'm certainly honored to have been chosen for that. And basically I was asked to be in brief, to give you a short but hopefully substantive student's perspective on the incredible changes and the exciting times that are in store for Texas A&M College of Medicine. I always like to open these things. I did an undergrad and now with words of people who are smarter than me. And a good observation that I've always found very poignant was from President John F. Kennedy, who remarked that our progress as a nation can be no swifter than our progress in education. And indeed, the human mind is our most fundamental resource. And those are very strong words. And I think this beautiful building that we're sitting in stands as a testament to the people of Round Rock, to the Avery family, to other people's commitment to ensuring the education and the prosperity of students for decades and decades to come. A little bit about me. I don't know if you can tell from my accent, but I hail from the panhandle of Texas, a little small town called Borger, Texas. I don't know if anyone you know, you know. For anyone you need like a point of reference, it's pretty close to Spearman and Dumas. Actually, it's about a mile north out in the middle of nowhere near Amarillo, Texas. I completed my undergrad education, majoring in political science, actually, at West Texas A&M University. And I actually went to college knowing that I wanted to be a doctor, and actually having the rare opportunity of knowing I was going to Texas A&M's medical school. And the way I was able to know that was A&M has an incredible program in which they have an early acceptance for students in their senior year of high school and their freshman year of college, in which you apply, you go through the whole rigmarole, the interview process like you would for medical school, but you are guaranteed a spot. So if you go through one of their undergrad institutions, you perform well, you have a spot waiting for you. And as anyone who's applied to medical school can let you know, you get to skip the MCAT, which is a horrible, horrible thing and a horrible obstacle that I got to go past. And because of that, I didn't have the horrible cloud hanging over my head of wondering, how am I going to get into medical school? All my friends were, scampering around. I was able to actually broaden my studies, broaden my experiences, I think get a more well-rounded undergrad education. And I chose A&M besides the fact of giving me a guaranteed spot and skipping the MCAT, because from my first day that I took a tour there, I realized the incredible student-centered environment of it. Everyone from the faculty to the administrators to other students were happy we were there. They were happy to be in Texas A&M. And where other medical schools, I'd heard from other people on the interview trail that said, kind of the attitude of, you can take us or leave us. We're medical school so-and-so. We're Harvard University, we're wherever. You can come or not. A&M wanted you to be there. It made you feel like they were happy you'd be there, and they wanted you to be a part of it. So I completed my first 2 years in College Station, and then as it came time to choose where I was going to perform my clinical duties, I just assumed it was going to be in Temple because that's where everyone goes. But towards the end of my second year, I heard about the possibility of opening up a campus in Round Rock, and I was immediately intrigued for a couple of reasons. Number one, just I had heard about how vibrant of a city Round Rock was, the great quality of life there, how great of a place it was for young professionals. My wife is an elementary school special education teacher, and about the wonderful school districts, a much more broad places that she could choose to work in was very intriguing for us. Number two, I just kind of felt it'd be cool to be a part of the next step in Texas A&M, the next page in history, and being at this groundbreaking campus and really seeing all the great opportunities that could be provided. And lastly, I don't know how many of you are familiar with how the medical education structure works, but the tried and true methodology was you have the student, intern, residents, and attendings. That's worked well for years and years, and there's nothing wrong with it. But Round Rock affords students a very unique opportunity to work one-on-one with the attending physicians directly, whether it's in the operating room, whether it's delivering babies in the clinic, and I think gives us an incredible clinical experience that's going to serve us well in the future. And just as a point of reference, all the students who I've talked to who've chosen Round Rock, we would all choose it again. And I'm going to clearly double our numbers next year of the people that want to come and do their clinical years at Round Rock. And we are matching and in some cases beating the Temple and College Station students on their shelf exams and things too. So we're getting a pretty good education. And finally, just a little bit about my future plans from here, and hopefully where I can take this wonderful education that I've received. I actually chose ENT, or otolaryngology head and neck surgery, as my future career choice. Yeah, I want to play with boogers and earwax, I guess. But anyway. Now, I'm really excited about it, though. And hopefully, actually, I hope to complete my residency somewhere outside of Texas, just so I want to see other parts of America, see how medicine is practiced in different regions, see if there's things I want to incorporate into my clinical practice. But ultimately, I do hope to come back to this area, specifically the Round Rock, Austin area. My wife and I have completely fell in love with it. If it was her choice, we wouldn't leave, period. But we certainly want to come back. And I'm hoping, if all things work, is this medical center builds up into, I think, the incredible first-rate medical teaching institution that it's going to be. Hopefully I can come back and be on the teaching faculty and pursue a career that allows me to combine, patient care, research, and hopefully imparting the education that I received and help teaching the next generation of medical students and residents. So in closing, once again, I feel very honored to be allowed to speak to you all today. I think it's incredible, and for all of us, my fellow students and I, we just want to sincerely thank the city of Round Rock and all of its leadership for helping us have this opportunity and making it possible. And I'll just leave you with the last few words that have helped me get through this kind of arduous journey we call medical school. Sometimes, very emotionally taxing, but oftentimes rewarding. But it's from Dr. Leah Buscaglia, who I've always found to be very, very poignant. He said, "It's not enough to have lived, but we should be determined to live for something. And may I suggest that it be in creating joy for others, sharing what we have for the betterment of personkind, bringing hope to the lost and love to the lonely." So once again, thank you for giving me the honor of speaking here, and now we'll turn the podium over to the man of the hour who you all came to actually listen to, Mayor Alan McGraw. Thank you.
I was just introduced by a booger doctor. Thank you, Dr. Cottrell, for the introduction and for hosting us all at this beautiful institution. And thank you, student Dr. Farrell, for taking time out of your busy schedule with us and to be here today to share your experiences. To be perfectly honest, there is a reason that I asked to have this event here. And if I read in the paper one more time how great it would be to have a medical school in the region, then I think I'm going to scream. Folks, we have a medical school in the region. If you don't believe me, reach down and fill your seats. If that doesn't work, pinch yourself. And if that doesn't work, come pinch Dr. Farrell, and he'll make sure you know. We do have a medical school here. How many of you, is this the first time to visit the campus? What do you think about it? Pretty nice? Is there room in Central Texas for another medical school, especially one with a research perspective? Absolutely, and I think we would all benefit from it. But the bottom line is that I really did want to take the opportunity to highlight what is already here so that we can all start taking advantage of its presence in Round Rock. Now, let me give you a little warning up front. In an effort to draw attention to the medical school and the medical presence in our community, I will probably overdo the medical analogies throughout my speech today. Heck, I even started before you got here with the title of the speech, Prescription for Success. So please just bear with me on that one. Now, my family is at that special time in our lives where we are trying to decide where to start sending tuition checks for my daughter, Paige. She, of course, wanted to be here today to again chide your generation for spending her generation into bankruptcy, but she just couldn't afford to miss any more class. A few weeks ago, we drove up to Missouri to look at Mizzou. And along the way, driving through Oklahoma and Arkansas, we saw some beautiful, beautiful natural scenery. And it really got me to thinking, why does one area thrive and another area languish? After all, some of the places we saw were, in all honesty, they were naturally more beautiful than Round Rock. And with both my kids buried in their electronic gadgets and their headphones, Kathy was buried in some great work of literature about some married woman in love with some married man that she couldn't have. So I had plenty of time to think about it. And the word that kept coming back to me over and over again was the word initiative. It appears to me that the places today that are thriving are those whose people are taking initiative. Now, notice I did not say that the government was taking initiative. I said the people were taking the initiative. This includes, to a certain extent, I believe, the government, but also individuals and businesses and organizations who want to grow and succeed within their community. You know, this is not the agrarian era of long ago where people migrated to an area because of the natural offerings, be it water or soil or even buffalo. Instead, we live in an era where people generally have a choice about where they live and about where they work, and those two may not necessarily even be the same. So given that people do have a choice, how do we make Round Rock the choice? Now, without getting into too much detail at this point, I really do believe that it comes back to that word I used a minute ago, initiative. It involves people taking action to create opportunity. And again, that means the government, individuals, businesses, and organizations willing to step up and take action that is appropriate for them to take. Now, using that first medical analogy that I promised you, where on the continuum of care do we want to be? Do we want to be on the wellness and prevention side, where we take action now that provides long-term benefit and prevents illness and disease? Or do we want to be on the medical side of the continuum, where we're stuck with the booger and earwax doctors, where we are constantly trying to treat acute or complex problems? You know, looking at it that way, even the title of my speech is suspect. Generally, prescriptions are given after some problem is discovered, but where I want to shift the focus to is what can be done prior to the problem even arising, prior to the blood pressure or the cholesterol rising. And we do that through a wellness and prevention plan, through taking preventative steps today that will have long-term and lasting benefits, by taking initiative. Perhaps a better title for the speech would have been Wellness Plan for Success, because that's where I really see us focusing our attention. Now, you may be asking yourself, is he ever going to tell us what the state of the city is? And what does initiative and high cholesterol have to do with it? So here goes. Generally, you will hear the state of the country or the state or the city described with an adjective. Strong is the most common that we hear. And while I do believe that our city is strong, I wanted to do something a little different this year because I don't believe an adjective adequately describes the state of our city. Instead, with all the action that your city is taking, with all the collaboration that your city is involved with all the planning that your city has commissioned, with all the ideas that your city is developing, with all the initiative that your city is taking, I think the state of this city can only be described by a verb that describes an ongoing commitment and an ongoing effort. So, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that the state of Round Rock, Texas, is that it is innovating. We are an institution, and we're surrounded by two other institutions, if you look right out the door, where ideas are king, where creativity and innovations can flourish. So it only seems fitting that we have a city that is innovating as well. If you were here last year, you remember that I was talking about a strategic inflection point, that point in the life of an organization where its fundamentals are about to change. And that change can either mean the opportunity to rise to new heights, or it could signal the beginning of the end. Well, I believe it's safe to say that your city leadership sent the message loud and clear that it wanted this city to rise to new heights, rather than facing the beginning of the end. We have a city manager in Jim Noose and an assistant city manager in Cindy Demers who have received that message and are vigorously acting upon it. I also believe that it's safe to say that your business community leadership sent the same message loud and clear to its Chamber of Commerce. And the philanthropic community sent the same message loud and clear to a whole host of organizations and individuals that want to see Round Rock thrive. Collectively, the people of this community sent a very loud, very clear message that we want to be the city of choice and that we are willing to work to get there. So what kind of initiative does that require? What kind of innovation does that entail? And let's start with one born on the pier overlooking the Gulf of Mexico. Of course, all really ideas seem to start with either fishing or beer, and these started with both. And during the last legislative session, I was invited to give a State of the City address to the House Committee on Urban Affairs. Round Rock was the smallest city in attendance, and I spoke last. So I sat through a number of other larger cities' presentations and listened to problem after problem that we really haven't had to seriously address here. In the end, I almost came away dejected, recognizing that one day we would probably be the size of some of those cities and we would be dealing with some of those same issues. So standing on that Seadrift Pier late that evening, bemoaning my findings to several other community leaders and fishermen, the idea was born. Let's go meet with cities that are already the size of Round Rock, the size that Round Rock will grow to. Let's ask them, what would you do if you could do it all over again? So in February of this year, after considerable planning, Round Rock actually took the lead in organizing an information sharing event. We partnered with two cities of similar size and similar problems, and that was Sugar Land and Frisco. We traveled to Plano and we met with mayors and city managers and longtime staff from cities comparable to our ultimate build-out population, and that was Plano, Irving, and Arlington. We called this the Learning from Bigger Cities Interactive Forum. And we spent most of that day having a facilitated, insightful discussion on important issues like budget crunches and managing growth. We asked those larger cities what decisions they would change if they could, and what decisions would they repeat. We all shared challenges, mistakes, and ideas for success. And Dr. Herb Marlowe, who assisted with our strategic plan, he facilitated the forum and then prepared a paper outlining the results. That paper is hot off the presses, and it will be presented to council now in the immediate future. But here's some of the concepts that I think you'll find very interesting. The first, we are all fixing yesterday's mistakes. All the cities are addressing past decisions which have not turned out as favorably as had hoped. Another way of looking at it is that we must consider the day after the day after. Here's one, stay flexible. Growth can in part be foreseen and planned. However, unforeseen events and needs emerge, and the cities need to have some flexibility to respond. Keep your quality standards high. This was perhaps the clearest and strongest message at the forum. From the perspective of the larger cities, quality is either a pay me now or pay me later proposition, and paying later usually was the more costly form of payment. If you build it, figure out how to maintain it over time. That one's fairly self-explanatory. Don't bet the farm on growth, and don't assume that the growth machine goes on forever. It's easy to assume that rapid growth is a natural state of things and that today's growth-generated dollars can be used for today's expenses. However, build-out will ultimately occur, and when it does, the growth revenues will drop. And then finally, balance is the key. Maintaining a proper balance is the core challenge. Balance cuts across all elements of municipal services, and finding the proper balance is an ongoing challenge and really a key skill moving forward. Now, in a few moments, I'll discuss some of the highlights of the city's wellness and prevention plan, or as we formally know it, the strategic plan. But before I do, let's brag a little bit about some of the items we already have to be thankful for. And as we do, keep in mind this list of items, these are not all ribbon cuttings. These are not all financial successes. Much of the success depends on quality of life issues, so we've got some of those included in here as well. In January, the Round Rock Arts Council officially formed as a nonprofit providing advocacy for expanding arts and culture in our community. Incidentally, the council has had several very successful events, and they now have a permanent, at least temporary permanent home on Main Street. In February, we broke ground on the Austin Community College campus. Make sure and drive by when you come out. And that is the largest campus in that ACC district right here in Round Rock. In March, we celebrated the grand opening of Champion Fields at Old Settlers Park. We also launched the Sports Capital of Texas Ambassadors program. Our volunteer ambassadors have done a wonderful job promoting the Sports Capital of Texas brand and promoting healthy living. They even talked me and some citizens into this 3-month brutal workout regime that they called Round to Rock. In April, we celebrated the Hester's Crossing Road project completion. Austin Round Rock MSA was named number 2 best place to do business among big cities by Inc. magazine. The City Council adopted the city's strategic plan, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. I don't know how this one got in here. The mayor went to Alaska on yet another unsuccessful bear hunt. Okay, in June, this is one of my favorites. Austin Round Rock, best place to ride out the recession by Forbes. Austin Round Rock, number 1 nationwide in job creation, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. In July, the 800 soldiers we adopted from Fort Hood's 404th Aviation Support Battalion returned from a 12-month deployment in Iraq with no serious injuries and deaths. In August, Austin Round Rock was named the least stressful area by Forbes. They did not interview me for that one. Round Rock was featured on CNBC's Power Lunch following recognition of Round Rock as the second fastest growing city in the United States behind New Orleans. Now, I was fortunate to be interviewed alongside the mayor of San Jose, California, and they wanted to know how we remain successful in challenging economic times. And my response was that we prepared for the challenging times when times were good. The city's utility revenue bonds were upgraded to AA by Standard & Poor. In September, I don't know how this one got in there either. Let's see, the mayor went back to Alaska on yet another unsuccessful bear hunt. In October, Austin Round Rock was ranked the number 2 strongest economy in the nation according to Businessweek. The Round Rock Parks and Recreation Department earned accreditation based on quality of operation, management, and service to this community. In November, Austin Round Rock topped the Milken Institute Best Performing Cities Index, which ranks U.S. metropolitan areas by how well they are creating and sustaining jobs and economic growth. In December, Round Rock was named the safest city in Texas with a population of 100,000 or greater. And last but not least, in December, we celebrated the opening of this building. Now, obviously, things are still going well for us, even in spite of a slower economy and in spite of trips to Alaska. But because we don't want to rest on our past successes, because we do want to be proactive and take the initiative to plan for our success, because we do want to innovate, let's go back and let's look at our wellness plan. As I mentioned above, after months and months of planning, information gathering, and debate, the council in 2009 adopted the strategic plan with an overall vision to make Round Rock the city of choice. 4 themes emerged from that plan, and those 4 themes are economic progress, places and spaces, safety and security, and a high-performance government. I could literally spend hours talking about the themes and the priorities within that document. You only paid $10 to get in, so I wouldn't feel comfortable keeping you for that long. But I just want to touch on a few highlights and give you a flavor of how Round Rock is innovating with this strategic plan. Now, the first theme is economic progress, and that's obviously critical to our future. And I want to recognize a special guest with us today, not only because of his position, but also because of his commitment to economic development within the region. And we're happy to have Austin Mayor Lee Leffingwell with us today. And also his right-hand man, Matt Curtis, who is returning home to Round Rock. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. For those of you who don't know the mayor's son, Frank's a prominent attorney and resident of Round Rock. And Mayor, I don't know what the deal is. I've got to say this, but both you and the previous Austin mayor were doing a great job of running your city, and your family was living in Round Rock. So I just point that out for what it's worth. I would like to acknowledge Mayor Leffingwell for his recent leadership that he's shown for the region in helping to attract businesses such as Hanger Orthopedics, LegalZoom, and Facebook. And I believe what he's demonstrated is that a little bit of initiative really can go a long way. So thank you for your leadership on those efforts. I bet if you asked him about his recent success, he would say that the ability to offer some sort of financial incentive did play a role in those relocations. You've heard me say many times, I'm not a big fan of incentives, but it really ignores the economic reality of how deals are made today. So given that our current tax structure limits the incentives we can offer as a city, our economic development partnership with the Chamber chose to take an innovative step to cure a weakness in our system. As part of the re-energizing of the Momentum campaign, we asked the city and private businesses to help create a fund that would be available in the right circumstances to offer incentives. In recognizing the benefits that can offer, I'm proud to say that both the city and the private sector stepped up to establish a fund for those incentives. Now, as we continue to see the benefits of that economic collaboration with the Economic Development Partnership through the Chamber, the investment that we have all made in that effort has translated in some extremely innovative efforts by Charlie Ayers and Joe Vining. Unfortunately, Charlie couldn't be with us today because he's out working on economic development at the governor's office. But if you ask him how businesses are changing, how workers are changing, then you better be prepared to sit with him for a while because you're going to get an earful. And you better be prepared to acknowledge that some fundamental changes in what we were all used to. I was at a recent economic development conference, and I learned that about 30% of the workforce in our region is what you would call a free agent, someone not tied down to a single company. Well, that's not really what we're used to. And that's why Charlie has helped establish the Williamson Entrepreneurs Community. This is a large, growing group that meets weekly to help entrepreneurs start and grow their business in Williamson County. And then there's the Williamson Entrepreneurs University, which offers hands-on training for first-time CEOs of companies earning up to $1 million in annual revenue. And of course, no matter how good the idea, if funding is not available, then it just won't succeed. So again, Charlie has been instrumental in establishing the Williamson County Angels Network. They originally called this WICAN, but that just didn't seem right for an angel network. So Charlie does promise a more suitable acronym. But nonetheless, the organization will provide quality seed stage and early stage investment opportunities right here in Williamson County. And like I said, it's that kind of innovative initiative that will help take us to new heights. Another initiative that we've discussed extensively is the Round Rock Convergent Technology Center. Given the phenomenal growth of healthcare providers and medical education opportunities right here in Round Rock, the goal is to further capitalize on that sector. And to that end, the Economic Development Partnership has completed 2 studies, one by Ray Perryman, one by Russ Peterman. And each of these studies indicates a huge potential for convergent technology in Round Rock. A 3rd study, one by TIP Strategies, is still in draft form. I actually read the draft yesterday, and it is really narrowing the focus of how such a center could be operated successfully here in Round Rock. The bottom line is that we will continue to pursue taking advantage of every opportunity that we've been offered in the medical and healthcare field. Now, this year, the council also recognized the value of an efficient development process to our economic success. With the assistance of a number of people in the development community who offered many hours of their expertise, the council adopted a development philosophy statement. This policy statement will guide our city and its processes as we strive to be as efficient and as service-oriented as we can be. I would like to offer a huge thank you to all of you who helped with developing that philosophy and continue to help with its implementation. And I'd like to say a special thank you to Council Members Moman and Whitfield for their assistance and leadership. Now, there's much more work to be done, obviously, but we believe that opening a development services office will streamline the process in many ways, and we are also committed to making the technology investment necessary to greatly enhance the communication among all the interested parties. And on a lighter note, let's talk about economic development from what I believe is the purest form of economic development, and that's tourism. Our Sports Capital of Texas program, led by the ever-positive Nancy Yawn, continues to gain national attention and provide a huge economic stimulus to the community. In fact, in 2009, our Convention and Visitors Bureau was responsible for $8.4 million in economic activity from events that it sponsored. To further increase that huge potential, I'm proud to say that the council has contracted to acquire, next to McNeil Park on the interstate, for the construction of a special events and convention center. Such a facility will allow Nancy to compete for those indoor sporting events that we currently cannot go after. And the economic impact of such a facility, we believe, will be huge, as even more and more families will come to Round Rock, they'll shop at our stores, they'll eat in our restaurants, and then they get in their car and they go home. That's why I think that is such a pure form of economic development. Now, as we transition to the next theme of our strategic plan, which is places and spaces, keep in mind that none of these themes exist in a vacuum. The quality of our community is directly related to economic development, and our economic development activities are directly related to the quality of life that we are able to offer. If you don't want to live here, why would anybody else want to live here? And this places and spaces themes is really about quality of life issues and creating an environment where we want to be. It's about improving aesthetics and development quality and sustainability. It's about providing a wide range of employment and housing and lifestyle choices. And it's about mobility and it's about connectivity. And in this regard, I want to highlight the Downtown Master Plan. This community has spent countless hours working on the plan, offering input, offering their expertise, and even offering their criticism. It has been a long but very productive process, and I'd like to thank everyone who's been involved. A special thanks to Will Hampton for his leadership and to the Planning and Zoning Commission for their tireless efforts. And I want to say a personal thank you to Councilmember Honeycutt, whose insights and preparation on the plan has been a real benefit to me. You might ask, why do we need a downtown redevelopment plan? And the answer, quite simply, is the same reason that my mother just got a new knee. Now, careful, here comes another one of those medical analogies. It's because the old one was worn out and she couldn't enjoy the active things that she used to enjoy. This plan envisions a new knee for downtown. It envisions new and updated infrastructure that will promote new development and redevelopment. Is the new knee a cure-all? Well, no, absolutely not. It doesn't work that way for my mother's knee, and it won't work that way for downtown. If my mother took her new knee home and didn't do anything, then it would do her no good whatsoever. Instead, she has to have the initiative to go to therapy, to endure the pain and frustration of making that new knee work. Once downtown begins to get its new knee, its new infrastructure, then some of the pain will begin. It will take investors willing to risk capital. Some will succeed and some may not. Existing businesses will have to deal with some long-term construction. But that's why a well-reasoned implementation plan is so critical, and the plan must be achievable. Will the plan work overnight? No, it won't. Think of Moses leading his people from Egypt to Israel. This is not another medical analogy, by the way. By following a straight line, he could have walked there in a few days. So why did it take him 40 years? Because as Juris Rubinus and Maris Subax pointed out in a book, his was not a path from one point to another, but from one way of thinking to another. In creating that more vibrant downtown hopefully won't take 40 years. It will take time, it will take effort, but it will take a change in thinking about what our community has to offer. While touring my old alma mater, Colorado State University, this weekend, I cannot tell you how many people on campus came up to us and said, "You have got to go experience downtown Fort Collins." Now, Fort Collins is not much bigger than the city of Round Rock, but they've done a masterful job of redeveloping their downtown into a destination that was buzzing every time we stepped into it. I truly believe that we can do the same thing here and that it will be a huge benefit to our community and to our economy. Now, transportation and mobility is a major component of our quality of life, and I need to thank Mayor Pro Tem Clifford for his contributions to regional transportation by serving on Campo. Joe, I can't tell you how happy I am that you love transportation so much. I see Mayor Leffingwell shaking his head on that. Now, let me highlight a couple of transportation issues. The first is that we are under construction on the downtown intermodal transit facility. That facility will provide not only much-needed parking for Southwest Downtown, but also a convenient park and ride for our transit service. And the second is that we have developed a plan to provide express and reverse commuter bus service between Round Rock and Austin. We are currently preparing a request for proposals for the service to be provided by a third party, in addition to establishing a temporary park and ride facility in South Round Rock. Bus service should begin operations in late summer or early fall. Now, as usual, your city leadership will always be mindful of the costs versus the benefits of spending transportation dollars. We expect the returns to be worthy of the investment and will always weigh them with a careful eye. One of the city's priorities is preventing neighborhood deterioration, or what I call block rot. This is one of those areas where it really does take collaboration among many individuals and groups. It takes the initiative of residents within neighborhoods, especially those without strong deed restrictions or homeowners associations. People like Bob Eskridge of Round Rock West exemplify the investment necessary to make that work. I know there's Bob. Bob, thank you for your work on that. But you know, it's not always the neighborhoods themselves. Sometimes the initiative comes from people trying to make a difference just in the lives of young people. We have great work coming out of the Round Rock Community Task Force. The task force includes representation from churches and civic clubs and nonprofits in the Round Rock School District and the city. More than 40 members with a heart for children. And we have superior leadership on that group from our own superintendent, Dr. Jesus Chavez, and Councilmember Carlos Salinas. So gentlemen, thank you for your efforts there. You know, sometimes the initiative comes not from a group, but from a single individual. Pastor Art Cadenas of Abundant Faith Church, he operates a successful boxing program for youth, and especially for youth that have found themselves in a bit of trouble. His program is an inspiration not only to the kids who go through it, but to all of us who wonder how one person can possibly make an impact. So thank you, Pastor, for showing us how that can happen. A third theme from our strategic plan is safety and security. And again, there's considerable overlap among these themes. Businesses have little interest in relocating to an area that's not safe, and no matter how attractive downtown might be, it will get little use if it's deemed unsafe. Now, given that, I can't help but brag on our public safety sector. Round Rock continues to rank among the safest cities in the country. It ranks fourth among U.S. cities with a population of 100,000 or greater, and the city is number one among the 31 Texas cities with a population over 100,000. I believe that is a testament to our police officers and its department. I think it's something we ought to all be very proud of. But public safety and security is more than first-class police and fire protection. It also includes the protection and utilization of a safe water supply. And Councilmember George White has really come on strong as a leader in the area of water. He is our representative on the Brushy Creek Regional Utility Authority, which oversees bringing water from Lake Travis to the cities of Round Rock, Cedar Park, and Leander. This is another great example of collaboration where, working together, we are saving millions of dollars on that water supply. Now, for our water supply to be adequate to our build-out population, we must conserve and we must adjust our use. Otherwise, we just won't have enough. Now, remember Moses a few minutes ago in the desert? I'd be willing to bet that part of his problem had to do with water, because water is such a scarce source. But in that regards, we are currently working on the design and construction of a reuse water system that will serve Old Settlers Park and Dell Diamond for irrigation. It will ultimately be capable of reaching all the way up here to the Avery Center and any other developments that have large irrigation needs. Now, on the wastewater side of the utility, we again showed the power of collaboration by purchasing back the wastewater system from the LCRA. After months of intense negotiation, we successfully acquired the system in cooperation with the cities of Cedar Park and Austin. By taking these steps, the cities, along with Fern Bluff Mud and Brushy Creek Mud, are saving or will save $2 million a year on their wastewater service. Now, I know what you're thinking. He has not one time mentioned the financial condition of the city. Is he trying to hide it? Maybe sugarcoat it? And the answer is no, I'm not hiding it. I'm not sugarcoating it. It just happens that the fourth theme that I want to talk about is high-performance government and providing a value to the taxpayer. So I thought that might be a good place to give a realistic view of the city's financial condition. Now, the goal with this theme is to maintain and enhance public confidence, satisfaction, and trust in your city government. In spite of the economy, our financial condition is still strong. Our tax and utility rates are among the lowest in the region. We have favorable bond ratings that allow us to acquire lower interest rates. Ultimately, that savings passes on to the taxpayer. However, from a realistic standpoint, our overall taxable property values are expected to decline. The current assessed taxable property value of all property in Round Rock is $8.2 billion. The chief appraiser estimates that in 2011, that will drop to $7.7 billion, and then in 2012, that will drop an additional 1% to $7.6 billion. Obviously, that will impact our budget going forward. Sales tax revenue have declined compared to previous years. Though the dominant industry and largest private employer in our region continues to be a wonderful asset to Round Rock. But as they change their business model to ensure their success, something they should be doing, it will have a long-term effect on the city's business model. Now, I'm going to be very cautious about this next statement, so let me choose my words very carefully. Councilmember White will let me know if I didn't. Based on the last few months of sales tax data, it does look like our declining sales tax trend, at least for the non-Dell side of things, is starting to, I don't want to use the word reverse, I don't want to use the word recover. How about this? Will this work? It looks like it's starting to toy with the bottom. That work? Okay. But all this situation is causing a renewed emphasis on organizational efficiencies. It's actually a very welcome process that we need to go through, as it causes a much more serious look at how city departments are organized, where there's overlap, and where there's opportunity for improvement. In September, the council adopted a new financial management policy. Under that policy, we will strive to reduce the reliance on Dell sales tax even more than we already do. While we will never turn away $1 of sales tax generated by Dell, we also recognize that prudent long-term planning requires that we lessen the budgetary reliance. The result is a more stable, less volatile, and less risky budget for the city. Now, the bottom line is that because of conservative decisions made in the past, and because of a tremendous amount of work by our city manager, our finance department, and our department heads, we have adjusted to the revenue model, and we will deliver a balanced budget. The citizens demand good value for their tax dollar. I'm convinced that we provide that to them, and we will continue to provide that to them in the future. Now, when we first began this discussion today, I talked about initiative and I talked about action, about innovating. Is it possible that some of the actions that we take will need adjusting or just flat won't work? Yeah, that's possible. I guess that's one of the risks of doing rather than watching. And I'm reminded of the baseball coach who said that every team should have one perfect player, someone who never strikes out, never misses a catch, never makes an error. But the problem is getting him to put down his hot dog long enough to come out of the stands. So we may make a few mistakes along the way. The truth is that we value your ideas, we value your investment, we value your commitment to this community. To be the city of choice, we must all play a role. It is not up to the government, it is up to all of us. Your city leaders commit to doing the best that they can to make it happen. Now, before we go, I better thank someone that's very special to me and that puts up with a lot of long hours and a lot of absences, and that's my wife, Kathy. I don't think it would be as easy for her, and I'm not saying that it's easy, honey. I don't think it would be as easy for her or that she would be near as understanding if she did not see the benefit of what we are doing. But being so intimately involved with raising the kids and being around so many other families, I think she really sees the treasure that we call Round Rock. Am I right, honey? Okay, just checking. But I want to thank everybody for coming out today. We really do have so much to be thankful for in Round Rock, and thank you all for your support of this community. Thank you.